Oh no, China hacked our text messages. Who cares? Maybe we all should.
There are growing concerns about a sprawling and sophisticated Chinese hacking operation. U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner going so far as to call it the worst telecom hack in the nation's history.
The world of technology was in an uproar a few weeks ago as news broke of a Chinese cyber attack called Salt Typhoon. Extra points on originality. Now, this is just the most recent incident and what has been an ongoing cyber assault. You may or may not have heard of this. Mainstream media really wants you to think you're under attack, you're carrying China around in your back pocket, and you should be terrified.
The average American sends or receives roughly 40 text messages every day, rather than having an over-the-phone conversation, according to a Pew Research study. There are communications that may not be as private as you think. U.S. officials saying Chinese cyber criminals called the Salt Typhoon group are responsible for an unprecedented attack.
Shocker. But while the country is buzzing about data privacy, I really think we should be asking the telecoms, what are you going to do for me? Now, this hack hit 3 of the largest telecommunications providers in the U.S., intercepting messages from everyone, including government officials in D.C., as well as browsing data kept by those same companies.
The FBI is warning anyone with an Android or an iPhone to stop sending text messages in order to keep their information safe. And this warning comes after a breach of at least 8 major U.S. telecom companies by Chinese hackers attempting to spy on U.S. officials.
Yeah, these hackers could potentially intercept text messages. They could even listen to your conversations on your phone.
So, national security aside, why does or should this even matter to most Americans? I mean, do you think China cares that you are sending nudes on your work cell phone, or that you're cheating on your wife with your neighbor from across the street? The short answer is no. And while this latest hack impacted millions, it's really government officials that should be looking over their shoulders. The Donald Trumps and J.D. Vances of the world, the Joe Bidens, Elon Musk, and P. Diddy's, and whoever else has state secrets and a laundry list of corruption to hide. I mean, our own government has been tapping our calls and reading our text messages for over a decade. I personally don't think China is going to do anything worse. And this may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't care. I mean, it's the U.S. government that has been exploiting backdoors and software to spy on us. They're the ones that left the door open. And if you're doing anything that you don't want people to know about, you shouldn't be doing it on your cell phone anyway. You got to go off grid to start your Ponzi scheme or launch your drug empire.
But let's be honest, this is a feat of espionage that the U.S. government would be envious of. It's fair game, considered fair game to go after political targets, to listen to their calls. The National Security Agency here in the U.S. has done the same to other foreign leaders.
Now, I'll concede that identity theft, people hacking your bank account or opening credit cards in your name is a real problem. But if China is relying on the credit worthiness and bank accounts of Americans to fund their hopes and dreams, well, they're about to have a Shanghai nightmare. Maybe if there wasn't this constant feeling of Big Brother looking over you, the protection of your own data would be more important. But when you realize nothing is private anyway, you kind of stop caring. Not to mention, every other week, somebody else has left the lock open to our data. Target, Equifax, Facebook. I'm more worried about what Americans are going to do with my data than Xi Jinping. And what's America's answer to this anyway? Download this new piece of software that'll make your phone super safe.
Avoid texting any information that you don't want anyone to have, especially social security numbers, bank account information, and passwords. If you have an older smartphone, make sure you always have the latest software update. And instead of text messaging, use encrypted services like WhatsApp or Signal.
Honestly, I'd be happy if we got rid of phones altogether. I mean, when was the last time you got a letter in the mail from a friend? Texts are just so impersonal. It's a bunch of emojis and LOLs. But a letter, someone sat down, had to find a piece of paper, contorted their gnarled digits around a pen, and write. Not only are letters harder to intercept than wireless communication, but the majority of the country can't read cursive anyway. It's the safest method of communication that exists. And while America, the country, is beefing with China, they don't involve me in their decisions on what they do. So don't involve me when China hacks your phone. I promise you, they're not looking at my incoherent mumbo jumbo. Now, if one of my books gets leaked in Cantonese, then we got a problem. But until then, they can figure it out themselves. But I mean, the question everyone really wants answered is, are there any real risks to the average American? Maybe. I mean, I think the biggest thing is targeting propaganda at you, but isn't that what America's doing already? Yes, they can have your location data, your habits, and your social media preferences, but people care too much about that anyway. Now, the outlets that want you to be more concerned will say that indifference towards the hack actually gives the hackers more power, and it encourages them to do more. I completely disagree. You really can't pick on someone that doesn't care. Hacking my data only matters if I care about my data. If I don't, then you're just wasting your time. I think we expect the companies that hold our data to be able to secure it. If they don't, then they're the ones I have a problem with. All those random fees that AT&T charges, you think they'd be able to keep my text and calls private? I guess my point is this. Regardless of which company has the data breach this time, we pay them for a service. And when they fail to hold their end of the bargain for that service, I expect to be made whole. That's really what this story should be. Not how China hacked AT&T, but how AT&T is crediting everybody's account with 3 free months because they failed to do their job. If I don't hold up my end of the bargain, AT&T will shut my phone off. Now, AT&T has failed. So, what are you gonna do for me?